So good morning, everyone. I've got 9:45, so I'm going to go on and just get us rolling a little bit. So that, I kind of like to honor the people who get here on time, but not leave out the people who, might be having a little bit of a computer issue this morning. So what I'm going to do is my name is Susan Knott. I am with the Brooklyn Public Library. I am the site manager of the Bedford Adult Learning Center. I have been with BPL, worked in literacy for over 20 years in various capacities, first as a volunteer tutor and then made a career switch it's a little over 17 years ago that I came on staff. So been here for a while. This workshop is going to be very interactive. I'm going to definitely want your feedback, want your questions, want your collaboration with one another. And this is a new workshop. I'm just going to admit it. I've never done this before. It is a part of teaching that I'm trying to explore more. So I'm really also looking for your input and your suggestions and hoping that we can have a nice collaborative experience ourselves with things we've done that have worked, things we've done that didn't work as well as we wished, and share ideas and that kind of thing. So as I'm going to give people another couple minutes to get in, I'm just going to show you this kind of do now question. So when it comes to group work, I'm asking if you could just make a list for yourself. If you have a little sheet of paper there, if you want to throw it in the chat, you can. If you want to just keep it in your head, I'll ask you for these in a minute, of kind of the pros and cons of what happens when you have student-led group work. What's your experience been with that? That said, I'm going to give people another couple minutes just to make sure there's no one else joining us while you all think about that for me. Thank you. I'm going to go in and get us rolling here a bit. Again, I'm Susan Knott. I'm with the Brooklyn Public Library. I am the branch manager of the Bedford, not branch manager. I am the site manager of the Bedford Learning Center with the Brooklyn Public Library. And what I'd love is if you guys could just take a minute and introduce yourselves to the group. Who are you? What do you do? And basically, what do you love about what you do?
Okay, so I'll start. I'm Linda Pelk, and I'm the co-host here, involved with the ABE conference on the committee. And I teach ESL at a place called TELC, the English Language Center at LaGuardia Community College. Those students are in continuing ed. They're not at the college. They pay for instruction. It's an intensive program. I also teach teachers at the new school in the certificate of teaching English program. So those are students who want to teach ESL and EFL abroad. Okay, next.
Thanks, Linda. Just jump in, guys. Feel free to unmute and share.
Mary, are you there? Mary, Hazel, Mary? Okay, I know I needed to admit her. Okay, Michelle?
I'm fine, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing.
Can you?
Oh, introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Mary Carpenter, and I teach in the teacher training program at NYU.
Great.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mary.
Sorry, somebody just contacted me because they didn't get the new link. If you can put in the chat who to contact, that would be great. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt with that, but I'm Michelle Fulves and I teach for the Consortium for Worker Education. I'm a tutor, so I get anywhere from ESL students to college students in college. And I mostly work on the literacy subjects, reading and writing, and I do test prep, and I love it. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Michelle. Hazel, would you like to introduce yourself? Hazel, you're muted. Oh, we had you for a second. Try again, Hazel. Can you unmute?
Okay.
There we go. Beautiful. Good morning, Hazel.
Yes, good morning. What am I gonna say? Oh, I'm retired. Yeah, I'm retired. I'm part of
And
the,
you're on the ABE committee.
yes, I'm on the committee, yeah,
Okay.
working with Linda and everyone else. Yeah, and I'm attending.
All right.
I used to teach quite a while ago, basic ed. And then I had coordinated a program, the city, for the City Volunteer Corps, where the students range from basic ed, high school equivalency, and some were college, and many were college students. And yeah,
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Hazel.
okay.
Uh,
I'll go next.
okay.
This is Camille. Hello, good morning. I teach a basic level English class at St. John's, and it is a program that is funded through the New York City Department of Youth and Community Development. So it's free for our students. And it's a grant that Dr. Camacho has, I think maybe this is its 13th year, and I've been teaching for that program for about 5 or 6 years now. It's an evening program, so a lot of our students are working all day and joining in the evening. And I love the program. I have a lot of positive things to say about it. Our students are wonderful. They're hardworking people who really are wanting to learn English, and I'm really excited about being here today to learn more things to hopefully bring into my classroom. So thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Camille. I think we still have one other person. Andrea? Are you able to unmute?
Hi, I'm sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'm in the midst, as all teachers, in the midst of 20 things at the same time. So, my name- I am lead instructor for
So Andrea, sorry to interrupt you. You're kind of in and out for me. Is anyone else having that same issue?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we've lost you, Andrea.
Oregon. Can you hear me
Now I
now?
can hear you. Yes.
Okay. My name is Andrea E. Oliver. I am a lead instructor for the Doe Fund, which is an organization that services homeless men in basically getting their world, their lives together through curriculum and other occupational trainings. I'm the lead HSE and ABE instructor.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So glad we could hear you. All right. I think that's all of us. I'll just say again, because a couple other people came in. So I'm Susan Knott. I'm with the Brooklyn Public Library, working with adult ed. I work with low-level ABE students all the way through HSC and fast track students we have coming through our centers. Most of my work, most of my expertise over the past 20 years have been with basic ABE literacy students reading around an NRS level 3 and under, maybe 4 and under. And so what I plan to do today is hopefully have some wonderful discussions, and we've got a lot of wonderful experience here, so that's great. I had told the people who were here at the beginning that this is a new workshop for me. It's an idea I'm trying to explore more and more of how to get students to collaborate with one another, support one another, and how we do that, whether we're on site with them or in a virtual classroom like this. So that said, I asked people as they were coming in to think about the pros and cons of student-led group work. And thank you for those of you who put some ideas into the chat. I am not great at this, but so Michelle, thank you. Michelle, would you want to read what you have in the chat, Michelle, or would you
Sure,
rather-
sure. So the pros are that it builds community. It eases the pressure for students, you know, because they're not working in front of the whole class, and they get to work together. And it's a really wonderful way for them to see what they're doing right, you know, and also that their challenges are shared by others, because there's usually one or two people that have the same confusion or whatever. And they, you know, and then they also, you know, becoming a teacher, a student teaching others really helps to learn, right? And then the cons are that the resistance, you know, no, I want to work with the teacher, you know. And so it takes some, you know, some coaching, but they come around. But the other thing is, and this is, I think, more in online classes, that they, you know, I go into the breakout room, I join them, and they're speaking their native language. And try as I may, they don't always all share the same. I can't put all, you know, sometimes it's a mix of languages. So people feel left out.
Thank you guys. Bear with me with my craziness on this. I don't really need all that underlined, do we? But there we go. Perfect. Anyone, was there somebody else in the chat? Would anybody else like to add to this list? Any other pros or cons?
Yes, I wrote down here. So a pro is also it gives students the opportunity to take initiative, ownership. I think it's also engaging for the students. And the cons are with any group work, if the directions are not clear and explicit, then there are often problems. And by explicit, I mean really like step by step. So, you know, that's very, very important. Because it doesn't go smoothly, it doesn't go well. And I think that's also what you were saying, Michelle, that kind of opens up the opportunity for talking in your native language, because, you know, they don't know exactly what to do. And sometimes they're asking each other. The other thing is that some students get lost in the sauce, so to speak. If they don't have a specific role in the group, they may be too shy to speak up and to get involved. So, yeah. And I mean, maybe that goes in with the instructions. Yeah.
Susan, I
Yeah.
didn't get a chance to post anything because I had some problems here. I'm just want to tag on to what Linda said. I think there's also different communication styles, and in terms of culture and
Yes.
gender or whatever it is, you know. So I find with student-led group work, sometimes certain people just take over and the rest of the people just back out.
Right. Yeah. So that's good. I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's cultural, it's personality, it could be gender, right? Yeah. There are a number of factors.
Could be the time of day.
Right.
Yeah. Michelle, you had your hand raised. Did you want to add something?
Yes. So, and also it breaks, quite frankly, it breaks up the tedium, you know. It's stimulating, it's invigorating for them to sort of break out of, and not that teacher student interaction. So it's, you know, it creates that.
Great. So thank you all. These are wonderful, thoughtful, great lists. What I'm going to do is leave this list, and we are going to come back to it in a few minutes. So thank you for your input. At this point, I want to kind of dig into the framework that we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to be exploring Douglas Fisher and Nancy Fry's gradual release of responsibility instructional framework. It is an intentional framework that slowly increases student ownership of the learning, kind of shifting the cognitive load from the teacher to the student. It rests on the foundation of kind of the complementary educational theories of Piaget and the Scott, always mess this up, Vygotsky, I'm mangling the man's name, but all of which kind of come together and suggest that learning occurs through intentional interactions with others. As humans on this planet, we're kind of geared to interact with other humans. Some of us do that more easily than others, as we all know. And some of us, like me, never want to shut up when they're doing that, which can also be a problem in student-led groups. When I was a student, you had me in the group who just wanted to talk the whole time. So this workshop is based on their principles, and most of what I was led by their book called Better Learning Through Structured Teaching. And I'm going to have that and the other resources I used in the final slide of this, so that if anyone wants to check out any of these things and get their words instead of my interpretation of their words, you absolutely can. So what I want to do is share a video with you of Douglas Fisher talking about kind of how the spark that kind of came to him about the student collaborative part of the gradual release. And as you're listening to him, I'm just going to ask you to think about what you notice and what it makes you wonder about, if it makes you have any questions or thoughts. So just keep that in mind as you're listening. I'm going to try to get him to play large on the screen here for a minute. I think I have to do this.
We developed this, our implementation model of graduate release back in 2001. We were working on it.
I'm going to pause him a minute, try to get him on the full screen. There we go. Move your little pictures.
A district improvement process. And
can you all hear that? You get louder.
We developed this, our implementation model of graduate release back in 2001. We were working on a district improvement process, and I kind of thought I understood graduate release responsibility, but I know the exact day where I really got it. And it was January 16th, 2006. We were at a conference in Las Vegas, and there we were on our way to a session. Nancy and I were on our way. We were very excited about learning in this session. And I was wearing a cell phone on my hip, like we all did back at the time. And my phone rang, and I went to get it, and the clip broke. And the cell phone fell down into the lagoon at the hotel where the guy was going by and the thing. Well, the phone's gone. And I decided I need to go get a new phone. So off I go to the store, and I'm going to sign a contract and add 2 years to my plan and get my new phone. And the kid that was selling me the phone kept upselling. Oh, this phone does this, this phone does this, this phone does this. And I'm thinking, I don't need that. I just need a phone. You open it.
I can't hear it.
We can't hear anymore.
I think I muted myself, and that messed up his. Let me bring him back.
Okay.
This, and I'm thinking, I
Can
don't
you hear
need that.
now?
I just need a phone. You open it, you say hello, good to go. And he kept upselling and upselling, and I would saying no and saying no, I got to get back to the conference. And he finally said to me, young people text message. And I had never text messaged ever in my life. And I said, I don't need a text message. He said, young people text message. And I decided that was a selling point right there. If all the kids in my school were going to be doing this, I better learn how to do it. So I got my credit card and I bought a Trio 650 for $450, the most expensive phone I ever had in my life. So proud of that phone. I went back to the conference. Nancy, look what I got. I got this super expensive phone. Had it in my pocket about an hour and 10 minutes later, and the phone rang. And I had no idea how to answer the telephone, because every phone I'd ever had, you open it and you can answer it. And this one just sat there vibrating away and said, missed call. It was very annoying. So I went back to the store. I wanted my money back. I wanted to give back the phone and get the phone I wanted. I took Nancy with me. I might have said to the guy, this phone's broken, which it wasn't totally true. It was me not knowing how to use it. See, what he did is he showed me how it worked. I saw it work in his hands, but it hadn't yet worked in my hands. And it certainly hadn't worked in a collaborative situation. So he took it out, he showed me how it worked, and I said to him, I need to see the phone in my own hand. I gotta touch it. So he puts the phone in my hand and he starts coaching me through. Don't push this button, don't push the red button, unlock the screen. He did all this stuff. And Nancy got so wrapped up in the conversation, she bought a phone herself. And that night we had dinner at the Capitol Grill. We sat across from each other and started sending text messages and practicing and the message back and forth and send me a response and do this. And I think about that a lot in my life as a teacher. I know there are things that I have taught my students, demonstrated, model, but I know that has to be in their hands, in their minds. And then they need some time in a fairly low stress environment to practice with their peers before we hold them accountable individually.
I just feel like that kind of ends abruptly. Yeah, any thoughts?
It's actually what we do.
It is exactly what we do, right?
Yeah.
I agree, Hazel. One of the mantras I feel like I use constantly, and I oversee many volunteer tutors, is, don't do for the student what they can do for themselves. You'll get better at it and they'll still be wondering how do you do that, right? And I definitely, when it comes to tech, I'm right there with Doug Fisher in, please let me try it. Please put it in my hand, because it looks great when you do it and I think I know and I don't, right? Any other comments, ideas?
I think we as teachers sometimes give too much information. And I get overwhelmed and I can't process it. And I can just see that in that store, right? Oh, you do this, you do this, thing. I give up.
Right. And of that person who's an expert who can just do it so quickly, like, yeah, sometimes we have to remind ourselves, slow it down, take it in steps. Yeah, for me, I even have to think, slow down your speaking, Susan, you're talking too fast. Yeah, too many steps at one time, too much. Great. Anybody else? Okay. That's cool. I'm going to show you. So we're going to dig into this gradual release of responsibility model of teaching. There we go. You guys see that? So this model is, you've got the inverted triangle and the triangle here. The triangles are representing the cognitive load, who's doing most of the work in a given lesson. So the model over on the right is, I'm assuming that's your right, is the teacher responsibility. We've got the full part of the triangle at the top of the teacher's part. The student has the tiny triangle. So the teacher responsibility is the I do it. That's the focused instruction. I'm going to let you know what we're doing today, and you're going to take that in. This moves to, we're going to go through these a little more in more depth here in a minute. The next comes to the guided instruction. So the teacher does the guided instruction. That's we do it. Teacher with the students. I'm going to kind of lead, and students are going to come along with me. They're going to have more and more of a chance to be interactive with this and kind of ask the questions they need to and wrestle with it with me there to support them. So the load is a little bigger for the student, still kind of in the hands of the instructor. And then we get to the fourth category, the collaborative learning, and it's you do it together. So that's the students do it, the teacher steps aside. Doesn't mean we don't monitor and kind of see what's going on and what we need to do, but this is the time where they get to work with their peers, they get to figure things out together. And then hopefully after doing these 4 steps, we can go into the independent learning where the student can work on this on their own with a degree of confidence and feeling like, okay, I know what I'm doing now, let me practice on my own. This isn't static. This isn't you do 1, 2, 3, 4 for every lesson and it's done. Of course, sometimes you have to revisit certain sections and certain parts of this. We all know that. We've all, lived in the real world where things don't always go the way the models suggest. So what I'd like to do is kind of break down each of these sections a little bit. And again, all of this is coming from the Better Learning Through Structured Teaching, Fisher and Fry. The focused instruction. The goal of the focused instruction is two-part. It's establishing the purpose of this lesson. Why are we doing this today? Why do we need to do this at all? What's the point? And making kind of the implicit or the invisible processes visible to the learners, you know, taking the mystery out of whatever the particular lesson today is. This is how you go about writing better, understanding history better, whatever the subject is. And the teacher actions, the teacher's describing the intents of the lesson, and also the success criteria. What are you going to do to help yourself flourish? The teacher is noting the relevance in the lesson. Why do we need to know this? Also, you know, we all know hanging it on some hooks that have already been established. You know, how does this relate to what we did last week? Maybe we're revisiting something, we're scaffolding on top of something you already know. And the student is, the instructor is doing things like think aloud, demonstrating, providing direct instruction, all those things we do. The student is there. There is some interaction. They're listening, they're making connections, they're taking notes. They're possibly talking to a partner. There could be a moment of that. They can ask questions, of course, right? Could you slow down? Could you say that again? And they're starting to get a mental model of what it is we're discussing and talking about today and learning today. I think this is the part that's pretty straightforward. I think, does anybody have any questions? Cool. So that's the focused instruction. Most of it's on teachers' shoulders, right? Then we move on to the guided instruction. Again, something that most of us do easily. Now we're scaffolding a bit. We're asking more questions of them. We're scaffolding the prompts, the cues that we've been talking about. We are guiding the students into a more complex thinking about what it is that we're investigating today. And we're starting to shift some responsibility to the student. One of the interesting things that they talk about in this chapter about guided instruction is the difference between student mistakes and student errors. And I kind of enjoyed this definition. They were saying a mistake is something that you can correct with a student easily. A student missed a step. You can say, oh, wait, this isn't making sense to you because you didn't do A before you did B. And the student quickly says, oh, right, light bulb goes off. They move right on. Just a mistake. An error is when the student is asking a question because they're really not understanding the concept or the steps or the background. And that's when, as a teacher, we all know they need additional scaffolding, or maybe we need to go back to the focus lesson and be a little more explicit again about what we're doing. This is definitely with the guided instruction a time to kind of feel some of those things out. And guided instruction, depending on the makeup of your classroom, how big it is, who's there, can be in small groups and coming around and visiting who they need, you know, each group as they need it, or it can be the whole class, right? You definitely want the students within this guided instruction to start to have those light bulbs go off, to start to be like, I know what we're doing. I know what we're doing, because we want that going on before we take ourselves out of the equation and let the students start, you know, collaborating with one another. At that point, we get to the collaborative learning. So collaborative learning is their word for the student-led group work, students working together with the teacher taking a very back seat. This is the step that, in my experience, you know, most of us who have been doing this for a while absolutely know is important. It can be the frustrating experience for teachers and students at times if things aren't clear. And I think sometimes it's the step that gets missed when we're in a hurry. Like for me, if I'm feeling a crunch sometimes, and for some reason I'll go back and review what I did that day and realize, never gave them the opportunity to kind of just talk it through together. maybe because we just ran out of time, maybe because I focused somewhere else, but you can always go back and pick up the collaborative learning portion, right? So this is the part where they're working in a small group. All those things you guys listed, this is what's happening here, right? They're developing, oh, they were not developing. To help keep this on goal is the teacher having, so I love, they say a complex text or task. So it needs to be, I guess, complex enough that the students can dig into it and explore. But as I think Mary was saying, not so complex that they're like, wait, what are we doing? And everyone kind of gives up, or, you know, 3 people of the 4 people give up, and one person who's that person goes, okay, I'll just do this. Right, so this is, if we go back and look at our list, definitely all the pros are all there, right? The cons, teachers wanting to work with the teacher. That's where we want to make sure we're giving them a complex task to do that they feel like, okay, we just kind of did this, we can do it. And know that the teacher's going to pop into the breakout room. The teacher's not going for her coffee break. They are there in the mix if needed, but getting the students to talk to each other. Definitely, we want the instruction to be very clear. And one of the ways that the instructional, the GRR talks about that is assigning people actual roles so that each student knows their role, knows what they're responsible for, and is basically held accountable again a bit, right? Again, there's going to be different personalities in each group, so we're going to take that into consideration as best we can. So sometimes in those groups, we're pushing someone to speak a little more than they're used to. Sometimes we're encouraging people to speak a little less than they're used to practice their listening skills. So all of this is in the mix, and we're going to play with all of this here in a bit to kind of see what some of the solutions are. So back to the collaborative learning. The teachers doing this, they're monitoring progress, they're assigning roles, they're forming groups purposefully. The other thing they were saying is this isn't a time for setting people up with, here's, I don't think most of us do this anymore in a general way. Sometimes for very specific reasons we do it, but it's not like, oh, here's all the good readers and the medium readers and the struggling readers. It's a mix of personalities in a group so that people get a chance to maybe lead where they don't always get to lead, and to maybe follow when they don't always get to follow, and to be the person who has the idea or the person who can piggyback on someone's idea. They have assigned roles and the teachers monitor. Great. The students are going to be sharing the academic language that we've been talking about with each other. They're going to collaborate, share their opinions, their ideas. They're going to problem solve. They might even have to figure out, how do we problem solve and come to a consensus? Like, how do we go, yeah, this is our project, and how does someone, what I find interesting about this is students sometimes push back with student-led stuff, but it's really how so much of us work in daily life at our jobs or in our families, that the collaborative thing. So it's not that people don't have some kind of, well, I was going to say some kind of experience with it. And again, there are cultural differences, definitely. And there are families and households where maybe collaboration isn't always exercised, but yeah. The one thing I find too is working with adults, and I work more ABE basic ed. So many of my adults don't have a lot of educational experience in their background, of letting them know that learning doesn't come out of the teacher's head into your head, that mixing with the other students, that your ideas are valuable. It doesn't have to be gold starred and A-okay from the teacher's point of view. I find that's one of the first things that I tackle with new students when they come into our learning centers. I'm with the library, so one of the first things we do at intake is ending is, do you have a library card? before you start class, would you like to pick out a book? And I often get, sure, tell me what book I should get. And I'm like, I'm just talking about reading for fun. You know, what kind of stories do you like? What kind of movies do you like? Do you like mysteries? And that kind of, you know, this, I'll help you pick a book that might be on the right level. So it's not too much of a challenge, not too easy, but you know, allowing students to start to learn, like, we're going to expect you to have some autonomy in this. We're going to expect you to have ownership of what you're doing, is sometimes a new experience. Probably because people come from different cultures, and also many of my students are like, I stopped going to school around the age 9. They're not used to someone saying, you're part of this with us. Anything anybody else would like to add? I'm jabbering. Okay. So at this point, what happened? Oh, I skipped. Okay. Sorry, I skipped a slide. So that's a collaborative, they're getting in the mix. And then just to finish, top off this little model, the independent learning comes after the collaborate, after the students have gotten a chance to work with their peers and then come back, probably report out with the group. We're now at the place where the student is going to practice on their own. And this is the ultimate goal of the learning process, right? Is that a student can leave our centers, can leave our space and go and live their life and do the tasks they need to do in their life. So we want, when we've come to the independent learning part of this, to have a goal that the student feels they can master. I'm feeling confident. Sure, there could still be questions. Sure, there can still be, you know, stumbling, but they are now given an opportunity to apply the new knowledge that they've gotten and scaffold it into what they have already been doing and where they want to go next. The other thing that I want to I'm hoping that we have time to kind of dig into before the end of our session too, is the idea of some student reflection and different ideas of how to get into that, not only for reflection on what did I learn on this lesson, but we're going to look at reflection on how did the collaboration work? How did I work within the collaboration? Okay, so yeah, at this point, what I would like to do is kind of look at us, and I'm trying to figure out how many people we have 7 people.
I had a thought. Can I share it? You know, one of the things that I find when I'm teaching is, you know, not so much now, less and less, is that no one's ever asked them to do this. No one really asked them what they think. And that goes for their jobs as healthcare workers, you know, being CNAs. They're just told, you know, what to do. And where they really shine is in their family situations, because often, and I'm so amazed at what my students accomplish in their personal lives, you know, but they hold the family together. So this problem solving, you know, this initiative, that's where it shines. And I just had a student who really was struggling with the essay, and her pastor asked her to write something for Women's Day, and she wrote it, and it was beautiful. And I said, that's what you're going to do for the essay. You're going to talk to your congregation.
Perfect.
You know, because you have to sometimes help students carry over.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, what they're already doing. You know?
Right. Yeah, and kind of like you said, like I think in an educational system, in their job situations, often the collaborative stuff is not what gets to happen.
Yeah.
But you know, hopefully there's other places that it is, and hopefully we can, you know, help them start practicing that here, so that when they have those opportunities, they can, you know, go, yeah, I've done this before. And definitely I have found too that sometimes people's faith communities are a safe place for them to, you know, try out some of this. Cool. Thank you, Michelle. Michelle, you actually are bringing me right into where I want to go. So, woohoo! Thanks for being in my mind. What I'd like to do is just do a little role playing of a lesson. kind of using the gradual release of responsibility framework. And the lesson I'm going to talk about is using the RAFT system of writing, and how we kind of get that, which definitely incorporates who are you as the writer, who's your audience, what are you writing about, and what is the form that this writing is going to take. So with our little pretend scenario, I'm going to kind of pretend I'm the instructor and you guys are the students, and we're going to also pretend that we have all read the same book already, and that we have talked through this book and we all know this book well, and are going to do some writings based on the book. So this is a very low beginner reader book that we have in the libraries. And the reason I'm using it is because we can get through it really quickly today. But I also feel like this is absolutely a lesson and a way to enter into a writing like this for a basic reader and writer. So what I want to do is read through the book with you all. Can you guys see this new screen? Do you see the book says not anymore? It worked. So I'm just going to read this through with you. Not Anymore by Chris Malacher, and the pictures by Moira Hanrahan. And oops, there we go. My name is Tony. When I came to this country, I was young and fit. Sorry, really did want to find a better way to do this. Sorry, let's try this again. I should have a mouse. My name is Tony. When I came to this country, I was young and fit. Not anymore. I was good looking. I had thick black hair. At that time, I had good eyesight. Not anymore. On the weekends, I chased beautiful girls. Not anymore. I used to spend money on myself. Whoops. Not anymore. Sorry. I used to work long hours. Forgive my. Not anymore. My family used to live far away. Whoops. There's a picture of him surrounded by his family saying, not anymore. Sorry guys, I knew there was a reason I wanted to find a mouse before today and I forgot. So not anymore. Simple book, changes in a life, right? The things we used to do, the things we do now. Is that clear enough? They'll stick in your head. As we do some breakout room and you have some time, you're going to have access to look at this yourselves as you need to. That is the book, Not Anymore, that we are going to assume we've all studied and read and talked about and can read well together. So my focus lesson is to explain to you what a raft is. So raft, yeah, we're exploring putting together the use of the raft approach. So all writers have to consider several aspects of their writing before they can start writing. When you write, you have to make some decisions and choices. And some of those decisions and choices are, from what perspective are you writing? Who am I writing to? What form is my writing taking? What am I writing about? So raft is a way to remember those choices you need to make while you're planning your writing. So raft is R-A-F-T. It stands for role. What's the writer's role? Who am I as a writer writing this? A, audience. To whom am I addressing my writing? Because writing is a form of communication, right? I was telling students, you've got to consider someone else is reading this. What are you communicating to them? format. What is the format of my writing? Am I going to write an essay? Am I going to write a poem? Am I going to write a news bulletin? And the topic, what's my point? What exactly am I writing about? You know, why this writing? As you decide these different roles, then you can start digging into your writing. So yeah, so in general, sorry. Oh, don't cut. There we go. So those are our raft. Sorry guys, for a minute, I thought I had just gotten rid of a slide. So this is raft, R-A-F-T, role, audience, format, topic. I'm going to now show you a writing based on Not Anymore, and I'm going to give credit to a former colleague of mine, Luz Diaz, who wrote this lovely letter. And so I'm going to read this to you it's inspired by the story, and I'm going to ask you to identify the role, the audience, the format, and the topic. So this writing says, "Dear hair follicles, I have grown concerned about your diminishing presence in my life. We used to be thick as thieves. Why have you abandoned me? I hope this letter entreats you to return. I look forward to renewing our healthy and robust relationship. With fond memories, Tony." So, what is the role of the writer? Who's the writer in this? Anyone? I've lost you.
No, do you mean Tony, or do you mean what does he Tony represent?
Right, no, it's I'm not trying to be tricky.
Oh, okay, okay.
Absolutely Tony. Tony's the writer, right?
Okay.
Yes. And who did Tony write to?
His hair follicles.
His hair follicles, yeah. And, oh my goodness, hello. And what's the format of this writing?
Letter.
It's a letter, thank you. And the topic?
Losing his hair.
Losing his hair. When my friend Luz created this, her topic was abandonment. Like, okay, yeah, losing your hair. Where's my hair? Why aren't we together anymore? Yeah, so I'm gonna just say this. I realize that for a group of students who are reading this book, this letter is too advanced for them. But, you know, for our purposes in a workshop, it was just too delicious to not use as the example. But yeah,
But
so
the format's good. The letter idea is
yeah,
good.
Exactly. And
I mean, not that it's not good, but you know.
no, it's got vocabulary that I wouldn't throwing at these students at this point. But yes, a letter format, an idea of a character in a story writing to an object or another character, topic, all of that completely is in line with what students grappling with a book like this could manage, definitely. So thank you for doing that. What I would like to do with you now is, sorry, I've just put all your pictures on top of my slides.
Susan, can I just ask you a question? What would be the directions that you would give? You know, in other words, because it seems like, okay, can you come up with another example or extend something? Because I mean, they're going beyond what was literally presented in the story.
Right. So what I'm doing is taking the idea that we have a story. We understood the story. Now we're going to do some writing. So often with our students, especially with the low level students, we're just wanting them to write. We're just wanting them to own their voice and value that they have something to say. So this is kind of a fun way to do it. It could also have been a more normal is not the word I'm looking for, but a more unimaginative is not what I'm looking for. It can be a more straightforward lesson of we could write a theme about before and after, moving to, getting older. What is that like? So what I'm really trying to get across to the students is that when you write, there is a reader. So often when I find that my students, when they'll write about a book or about a subject, they assume a lot of the reader, that they've read the same book, that they've been in all of the classes discussions, and kind of saying to them, can you write this for someone who's never read this book? How can we get the details? So this is just a way to kind of go in an imaginative setting with the writing. I will say, Mary, and I have limited experience with true ESOL students. I have done the Tesla training and worked some, but that's not where I usually live. But I find too, I have to kind of know the group of students I'm working with. I have students who will absolutely go with me with imaginative things and are already like 5 steps ahead of me with it. And I have other people who will look at me like, why are you asking me to do this ridiculous thing? In which case, yeah, doing a letter like this might not work. Am I getting your question? I feel like I'm not.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Because I think sometimes instructions, not telling them what to do, but instructions are really important.
So in telling them why they're doing it, or?
Well, sometimes with adults, I think that's important.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. None of us want to waste our time somewhere. We don't have time for that. Right.
Because I think it was Michelle who said, how what she was doing, the person could extend it in different situations.
So my thought here is that I'm trying to just expand people's ideas of what you can write and when you can write. And, writing letters is actually, it's not so much a thing necessarily in our personal lives like it used to be, but it's still a thing people have to do. So just even understanding, like if you're going to write an email to your child's teacher, a format that just says dear somebody and it has a salutation is something that I will work with my students on that basic level. But I'm also just getting them to expand their idea of what writing is here. And definitely within this, I think there's a place to find where's your niche, what applies to your situation, I hope. But those are really good thoughts, Mary, and not, important to think about. So we're just gonna live with Tony and his world for a bit, and I'm gonna ask as a group if we can come up with a writer's role. And actually, before I do that, let me just show you this nice little chart I found that I had to recreate, because you know how you find something on the internet and then 2 weeks later it's not on the internet anymore. I had found this lovely raft lesson plan that, when you now go to the site, it's like, oops, not there anymore. But this was a teacher had filled this out as a brainstorming idea of different roles that different writings could take, different audiences, formats, topics. And while the role in the audience can be imaginative fun, also there's real use to something like that. Like maybe I'm writing as, that's not even on here, but as a tenant to my landlord, or as a just a citizen or a person who lives in New York City to the mayor or to my council person, that kind of thing. And different kinds of formats, different types of topics. So here's some just ideas to have rolling around in your head. And if we could think back to not anymore, oh my goodness, we're going to run out of time. And think back to that and come up with a role, an audience, a format, and a topic that we could play with real quick. So you can think about the book, and you can think about the different characters that would be in the book, or the different ideas that it could talk about. And sometimes I find maybe thinking about the top, I don't know. No, too much. Okay. So what if we, as a writer, decided to be Tony's wife?
Hmm.
Who could our audience be?
Tony.
Tony.
We could Tony,
The children.
Tony or the children, right? So what do we like? Well, we'll come back. We can figure out the rest and then figure out who we want to focus in on. What could our format be?
Maybe, you know, how people leave sticky notes around.
I like that. Yes, it could be a sticky note. Yes, absolutely. Sticky note. And the topic? What's the topic of our sticky note?
How handsome you are.
Oh, you're so lovely. Oh, that got really small.
Or what matters to me. What's important. Your love is important, not your hair.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Somehow she found the note about the hair follicle.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah, okay. If she did.
Like I truly like when I'm working with, especially with students at this level of reading and writing, I just want them to write. I don't like it. And if they can have fun with it, bonus, right? We all learn better if we're laughing a little bit and having fun. So I'm sorry. How do we say the topic is how lovely you are?
Yeah. How handsome you are. Yeah.
How handsome you are.
That was your words. Yes. Thank you. Okay, so I think we've settled on we're doing this for Tony, right? Not the children. So as a group, could we compose a sticky note to Tony about how handsome he is? So first off, let's talk about what a sticky note is. A sticky note is small, right? So we're not writing a 500-word sticky note, right? If you use a sticky note in your life, what do you usually use them for, or what kind
Quick
of
jots, quick information jots.
I love that word.
Sometimes
Usually 1 point.
Yeah,
1
1
point.
point, reminder of something.
Reminders, just
Reminder.
jotting something down. You're jotting down a reminder. You're jotting down 1 point because there's not room, right? That's why we use a little note.
And
So
you
what-
don't have to use complete sentences.
You don't,
Right.
which also
Bullet-
some can be fun to not have to have those structures on ourselves. We just get to express ourselves in writing. Yeah. So what do we say? Do we say Tony?
Yep.
Yep.
Tony. How do we want to,
I see you. I care about you. Or I love you.
Mhm.
Well, there must be a Tony in my life.
Maybe you can say something, we all change, but that's okay.
all right. So
Oh, I like-
there's not one way to do this, right? But the one thing we do remember is we're writing this on a sticky note, and we probably have filled out our note at this point with I see you, I care about you, I love you.
But if you're as guilty as me with sticky notes, I use multiple.
I'm gonna do boom, boom, boom. Yes. Well, I have in this book I've been using today, or to build the sticky notes stacked on top of sticky notes, a little book of sticky notes.
How about like to my handsome husband or something like that
I like that.
instead of Tony?
So Perfect. I'm going to stop this here because the whole point of this was to get us to have some fun, to be silly, to work together, which we've just done. We came up with some ideas. We were, people collaborated, people built on what someone else has said. We respectfully went back in and changed something that someone else had done. And how do we feel about this? Are we kind of okay with this? Do we need to sign it, or do you think Tony knows who wrote it?
I think it should be left anonymous because it comes by our family.
Right.
No matter who, we all see you, love you, and care about you.
Right.
But if it says husband, then you know it's the wife.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So we can just say, you know, we could, and there we can decide how we want to do that. If we want to be more mysterious and not say the husband, if we say husband, he knows it's his wife. If we just say, hey, you, I see, you know, because the other thing is maybe we don't address it at all, but if you put it where, you know, Tony's the guy who will, you know, go to that coffee pot in the morning first or whatever,
Right.
that maybe we don't have to say his name. Great. So what I'd like to do, oh my gosh, this ends in 10 minutes. Okay. So this is what I find. I don't know how to plan for Zoom sessions because I find the interaction is very varied. And I was told you never run out of time in a Zoom workshop. I was told wrong. So this is what I'm going to do because I don't think we really have time to keep playing with it. Is I want to talk about, so what I had planned to do after doing that is to, I'm going to show you, is to break students out into groups of 4. And as they're broken into 4, let everyone know that there's going to be we're building a raft, and rafts are built with R-A-F-T, and that someone is going to be in charge of the R, someone else the A, someone else the F, and someone else the T. And each group would ideally have 4 people. And I was going to give you a group, and your group would be able to see and be able to work on this. Can you see this chart?
Graphic organizer. Yep.
Yeah, like a graphic organizer, and just brainstorm three more ideas. My idea was to have people at the top of this where it says role, audience, format in the kind of gray, to put what's your students, the student's name. They would sign in for themselves, you know, Michelle, Susan's doing this, Linda's doing this, Andrea's doing this, Andrea's doing this, you know, and then each student would type in what they can. I was going to give you the link. So you would go into breakout rooms. I would give you a link in the chat that you could all click on, which would take you into a Google Drive where you can play with this. I, as the teacher, can see if people are typing or not typing. From the outside, I can look into this, and then I can pop into the breakout room as needed or not needed. You were also going to, so when you got the link, you were actually going to see something like this that had a PDF of not anymore, where you could refer back to it if you needed it. And then this chart. I am still much rather teach in person and do all of this in small groups in person, but that's not our reality all the time anymore. So this is my solution of doing it in Zoom. If you have set up a Zoom, or not a Zoom, sorry, a Google Classroom for your class, where people have their own logins to the classroom, you can put this into the classroom and students can work on it. And you can actually open up the document and you will see what student is typing into it.
Mm-hmm.
Today you weren't going to be able to see that because I didn't have that set up for you and didn't want to assume people had Gmail accounts available. I was just going to be able to see that someone was writing in it. But you can make it very specific. And I had a teacher several cycles ago who used this beautifully. She'd have 3 breakout rooms going, 3 graphic organizers. She could see exactly who was typing and who wasn't typing. And she could go in and be like, hey, Ralph, how are you today? You still with us? And interesting enough, her breakout rooms, I had a couple students tell me at post-testing time how much they loved the breakout room. She didn't have student collaboration, right? That was the point, but two different students said to me, I felt like I got so much of the teacher's attention in that. And I was like, that is not the usual response, because she could come in and say to a couple in a small group and give just a few suggestions and talk to them, and they appreciated that. The other thing I would do is I was going to, I'm sorry, I lost my little pictures of you and it's making me crazy. There we go. There you are again. Go in, make our little chart, come back and have, so you'd have three rafts, have a different person from each group tell us about one of the rafts, then go back into their small groups and come up, do one of those rafts, do the start of a writing. The fourth person, when we came back out, would be the person who would read their writing, so that everyone had the opportunity to do a little writing and everyone had the opportunity to report back. And now I know for the meat of this workshop, when I do it again, we're going to start at the back first, because the one thing that I found very fascinating and interesting with the collaborative approach was having a way for students to self-evaluate themselves. And they have these nice questions of what contributions did I make in the small group? What additional contributions could I have made? Maybe if I had entered in more time, maybe I wasn't so tired, maybe if someone had let me speak more, you know, whatever their feelings are about this. What is an example of how or when I worked well with the group, and what is one thing I could have done better? So my thought was, in doing this raft stuff, that weaving this into their final individual project, the students would build a raft. They wouldn't build a raft. I've built a raft. They would take my raft and answer these questions within their writing. And the role would be themselves as a student. Their audience was me as their instructor. I want them to write a letter or a paragraph to me. And the topic was a self-evaluation of the collaborative learning. My intention had been to brainstorm with you guys, because I actually don't think just giving them questions and these roles is an ideal solution to this. I do think possibly taking these questions and working with the students and maybe creating a class rubric about it, of kind of rating themselves of how they did. Also, maybe having some type of evaluation where the group themselves can say, how did we work together? And what could we have done better? All of this I'm kind of thinking as a thing to start at the beginning of a cycle and kind of weave into our daily practices. But those were my ideas, and I need to let you go so that you have time to do evaluation. My understanding is they're going to make the PowerPoints available to you. I'm going to find out how that's happening and make sure that I get my PowerPoint to who needs to get it. I do finally have the resources I've used, and a couple additional resources on this page with some links I've got 2 raft resources, which just are 2 lesson plans online that I found that a couple different teachers had put up that were interesting. And just another link here from this shannonliteracy.com, which was a teacher who had set up a lesson around gradual release responsibility and her take on it, which I had found interesting too. So sorry to have just jabbered at the end of this. I was really looking forward to more conversation. That's how it crumbles. So I thank you all for coming in today and sharing your knowledge and giving me your time for a moment. And I'm going to turn this over to Linda, I think. Absolutely, I'll get you the slide deck, Andrews.
Yeah, so in the chat is the link for the evaluation, and I am writing, just as Susan was speaking, that this is being recorded and it will be available on our website, and Susan said she would get the slide deck to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, there are only 7 of us, so it's a short list. Let's see. So now what you need to do, writing and talking like all good teachers, right? Let me see if I'm writing the right thing. Okay. So, you should do the evaluation and then take a short break and then go to your next workshop by 11:15. Just to remind you that the next workshop is from 11:15 to 12:30. Again, 75 minutes. Then there'll be a break for half an hour for lunch. Then we have the publisher's hour from 1 to 2. And then we have the plenary from 2 to 3:30. If you have any problems with the links, you should go email. I put this also on the website. I'm sorry, on the chat early on, because someone did ask me about that. I think it was Michelle. Yeah. So here is the email, right? NYC ABE CONF, like New York City ABE Conference, but just to F @gmail.com. And there is somebody checking that even as we speak. So you can email there and ask for any links you might not have received. But again, 11:15 to 12:30. Yes, yes.
But there's
Ashley.
no, I don't see a link to the evaluation.
I don't either.
No, I
It's
don't.
there in the chat.
You have to scroll up.
It's from
there we go.
Alex. It came very early
Oh,
on.
it came early. Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Got it.
please remember, yeah.
Thank you,
From
okay.
Alex, AP, Alex Pence, the
I think-
conference chair, right?
Linda,
Yeah,
if-
yes,
If I send the PowerPoint to the conference email, can they get it to these participants? Or I can give,
yes.
will that work?
Yeah, you can send it to the email there, definitely.
And then just ask
say-
them if they could get it to the people who are in this session.
Yes,
okay,
or they'll
perfect.
put it up on the website, which is also what I'm telling people, right? Yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
And I also,
definitely.
guys, my email is in here if you got it. Feel
Yes,
free to email me personally and I'll shoot you off the PowerPoint.
right.
Oh, okay, wait, don't, you're not gonna close this then, because I.
No,
need to-
I'm not closing, no.
Okay,
no.
sorry.
No, you should do the evaluations.
Is it-
and- yeah.
I
Now I
can-
can't get the chat.
I can't get the link to work. Has anyone else been successful? Is it just me? It's saying that
No.
there's invalid dynamic link. I don't know if that's
Right. I have this, I'm having the same issue.
okay. It's not just me. I've done it twice, so I'm hoping.
I was
Okay.
able to do it. I found it.
I'm
Okay,
able
let
to
me
do
see.
Are
it.
you able to do it on your phone or on your desktop or laptop?
Yeah. If you can copy and paste it to the browser,
I got it.
yeah, that's how
Yeah,
it's
something like
done, like I'm doing that right now too.
Thank you. I got it. Thank you.
Yeah,
Perfect, good.
I'm right here. I think I'm gonna do it too. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so that's good. Some of it is. Okay.
Somebody asked about the PDF for the book, so I don't know that I can really distribute the PDF for the book legally.
Is it online? I mean,
I'm
it's,
not sure, like I literally scanned it to do that today, but it could be. I mean, it's
Okay.
a published book, but it is, in this niche of adult basic.
I thought maybe you had that from on, like you found that online, but you scanned it yourself. I got
Yeah.
you. No worries. I thought it
Yeah.
was sitting there in the web world, and I thought that's great. But
Yeah, I
understand.
was.
thank you, though. I
The
understand.
idea of it is pretty straightforward. You might be able to recreate it.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Into your own. Then go be creative. Absolutely.
It's for education purposes, so.
Mhm.
Linda,
Yes.
you don't need me. I think I'm gonna cut out. I need to check on some things here. At the
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you all so very much.
Thank you.
You're
But-
welcome.